All right, everybody. Welcome to the Lowing Brothers Sports Podcast, where myself, Jake, and Jared will argue about all sorts of fun stuff in sports. This whole thing kind of got started back when I was still in college. Both of us were still in college, actually. And one night we were arguing over whether Pascal Siakam deserved a max contract or not, and it got pretty heated. And our roommate actually commented on how entertaining it was, and I kind of thought, gee, maybe we should record these things. So basically, here we are. I'll transition to Jared here.
Yeah, like you say, here we are, a couple years later. I was still in college. I just this year, now that I'm not in college anymore, I just kind of got bored and figured we could hop on do this. I mean, Jacob and I usually are on the phone for an hour or two, a couple times a week, just arguing with each other back and forth about what's happening in the sports world, if it's football or NBA or anything. So whatever season's happening, we always have some sort of argument that we argue with each other. Looking forward to the future, we're probably going to see one or two podcasts a week, at least once, just whatever's happening around in the sports world today. We might bring in some guest speakers, some of our friends or something for here and there to get their opinions on things. But so clearly, to kick us off, to start right away, we have the big old college football playoff that has came out this weekend. Just kind of diving deep into that, we're going to talk about our picks, who we think should be where they are, and just kind of dive deeper into that. So to start, my lovely brother, I just want to get started and ask you what your top 6 teams are in the college football playoffs.
All right, and just like the college football playoff committee does it, I'm going to start from the bottom, work my way up, and start with the losers. So, number 6, I'm going to go with Ohio State, just like the college football playoff rankings had. And number 5, this is going to be my first wrench. I got Baylor at number 5. At number 4, we have Georgia. At number 3, I have Alabama. At number 2, I have Michigan. And at number 1, I have Cincinnati. So how'd we get here? First thing you're going to notice is I left Notre Dame out because everyone Notre Dame plays is terrible. They played one big game all year, and they got blown out at home by Cincinnati. So the only big game they had, they stunk, and they didn't beat a single good football team. So putting them in the top 6 would just basically be criminal. Now, number 6, Ohio State's, that's a given. They've lost a couple big games. They won a big game. I don't think anyone's really going to argue with that one. But no, so Baylor at number 5. Let's look at some significant results here. Their 2 losses came against current number 9, Oklahoma State University, at Oklahoma State by 10 points, and a loss to a 5-7 TCU team. Bad loss, but listen to some of these wins. They got a 38-24 win against a number 13 BYU, a 24-17 win against Oklahoma, and then a 21-16 win in the conference championship game against number 9 Oklahoma State University. That's a lot of big wins, and that's a tough loss on the road to Oklahoma State earlier in the year. So we're going to give them the number 5. Why are they over Ohio State? Basically, they won their conference. Similar resumes, more big wins. A worse loss, granted, but winning the conference really sets them apart. So my number 4, I know Georgia's controversial at number 4, but in my opinion, this was the easiest game. They only played 4 road games this year. They didn't particularly, play well against Clemson the first game of the season. They blew everyone out. I'll give them that. They didn't play a single close game all year, but the best team they played up until Bama was number 19 ranked Clemson, who they beat 10-3 at a neutral site. And the one big game they played, the big conference title game, they blew it and got beat by over 2 touchdowns. So I just don't feel comfortable placing them any higher than number 4 with those performances. Alabama, number 3. This is where it's going to get controversial here. I'm going to put them below both Cincinnati and Michigan. What edged Michigan out over Alabama were those 2 big wins against Ohio State and Iowa, the last 2 games. Michigan has that 39-point win, is the most over a ranked team of any of these top 4 teams. That's a big win. They dominated Iowa from the start to finish. They dominated Ohio State start to finish. They've looked great. Their only loss being on the road to Michigan State, and that could have been very different. There are a couple of crappy replay reviews, and a handoff by J.J. McCarthy away from being an undefeated team. So I'm going to put them ahead of Alabama. Alabama's loss is worse. they've really struggled against some pretty, lackadaisical teams. That like they have a 2-point win over a 6-6 Auburn. They have a 6-point win over a 6-6 LSU at home. I mean, and then another 2-point victory over Florida, over a 6-6 Florida at the beginning of the year. They've struggled. Michigan struggled too. I mean, they struggled against Rutgers and Nebraska, but I think they have better wins and a better loss. And Cincinnati, number 1, they're undefeated. They've played 2 big games this year. They beat number 5 Notre Dame on the road by over 10 points, and they won their conference title against number 20 Houston by 2 touchdowns, 15 points. They've won their big games. They've won their big games big. They've yet to lose a game. I think that earns them the right to take the number 1 seed into the college football playoff. So in my opinion, it should have been Cincinnati 1 playing number 4 Georgia and Michigan number 2 playing Alabama number 3. So with that, I'm going to transition over to Jared and see what he thinks about his rankings.
All right, brother. All right. We have a couple things that are similar that I agree with you on. Working from my way from 6 to 1 as well. I do have Ohio State as 6. My 5, as well as you, I have Baylor. 4, I have Michigan. 3, I have Georgia. 2, Cincinnati. And 1, Alabama. So not to kind of just dive deep into it, just to start, like I said, Ohio State, I think that's just a clear 6. I mean, they don't have a Big Ten championship. Their 2 losses are against 2 top 10 teams, against Michigan and Michigan State. No, my bad. Michigan, not top 10, but
top
Michigan
15. Oregon's number 14 currently.
Yeah, Michigan and Oregon. So 2 quality losses, and they destroyed a Michigan State team who's ranked 11, who might have been overlooked a little bit, but still. So I think a 1 quality win. Oregon loss was a 1 possession game. Michigan, like I said, they went into the big house and looked terrible. I have them at 6. I wouldn't put them at 7 or 5, anywhere close. And being as a biased Ohio State fan, that's hard for me to put them even at 6. But number 5, Baylor, like you said, just everything you said was dead on. I agree with. So I think Baylor's just main thing is, they lost Oklahoma State, but they beat them in the big game in the Big 12 championship. They came out with the Big 12 championship, only having 2 losses. I think that's a clear number 5. Now this is where me and you go a little bit different here. It's kind of interesting because we don't have one spot the same. So I'm going to go opposite here. I'm going to start with Alabama, why I have them at 1, and I'm going to work my way down from there, actually. So Alabama beat the number 3 team in the nation right now, Georgia, who seemed unbeatable all year. I mean, clearly beatable team, but a team that dominated the SEC as much as Georgia did, to go in there, a team where Georgia has not allowed a lot of touchdowns defensively all game, and they went in there and just dominated the SEC championship. Alabama also has a win against another top 10 team, Ole Miss. And they also have a win against number 22, Arkansas. Okay. They have 3 top 25 wins. They went into to my opinion, the best conference in college football and dominated it in the SEC championship game. Their only loss is Texas A&M, which I know Texas A&M has been up and down all year, but it was an away game, which, I mean, you can't give that an excuse, but I just think the way that they dominated Georgia in the SEC championship game and other wins against top teams, I think it gives it to them. Also, according to ESPN as well, that Alabama had the 4th hardest strength of schedule all year. So to go in there, have the fourth strongest strength of schedule, their 3 wins, that's why I give them number 1. I put Cincinnati at 2, and deep down, I don't want to put them at 2. But I think I have to respect the fact that they're an undefeated team. Like you said, the only undefeated team. They've gone in, they beat Notre Dame in Notre Dame, which is huge. That is such a huge game to go into their home stadium and beat them there. They won their conference. I know it's not a Power 5 conference, but they beat number 20 Houston in that game. The only reason why I don't put them at 1, even though they're undefeated, is just because the struggle against bad teams like Navy and Tulsa. I mean, there's a couple of games there they didn't look that great. I mean, it's hard to say that because, every team has struggled probably against some team. Alabama struggled against some teams too. And also, this is what the committee sees, and they're all very biased too. Is that I just, the fact that they're not a Power 5 conference and they don't play tough game after tough game after tough game. In the Big Ten, the SEC, it seems like every game you could go in and lose. And they don't play in that, and I think for that reason only is why I don't have them at 1. Cincinnati's strength of schedule in the nation is number 87th. Just going to put that out there. Georgia at number 3. Okay, Georgia has beaten 3 top 25 teams in the nation. The first one coming the beginning of the year when they beat number 19 Clemson. I know right away in the beginning of the season Clemson didn't seem that good of a team, but they've really come around. They've showed that they're a lot better than people thought they were. So I think that's a big win, especially on a neutral field. It wasn't at home, it wasn't away. They have a win against number 22 Arkansas and number 25 Florida. I just have them at number 3 because I understand they just lost an SEC championship. They dominated the SEC, which, like I said, I believe is the best conference. And I feel like it's hard to go into the SEC and go undefeated up to the SEC championship. I know there's teams do it almost every single year or every other year. Alabama, God knows how often they've done it. But to go into the SEC and dominate that much, I think is just the reason why I had them at 3. And the Georgia strength of schedule being 20th in the nation. Now, this is where Michigan comes in here. Yes, I'm an Ohio State fan, so it might seem a little biased when you put in Michigan, but I think I have good reason here. They beat number 7 Ohio State at home, which is a big win. First win they've ever had against Ohio State in 10 years?
10 years. 2011 was the last win.
Yeah. And
Darren Robinson.
And you said, yeah, they dominated the Big Ten championship against Iowa. I think Iowa is a subpar team. I don't think I understand they're a top 25 team, so I give them credit for that. First of all, can we just talk about maybe the Big Ten and every conference should change it where the top 2 teams of the conferences play each other in the conference championship, not this whole other stuff. But
divisions are busted. They need to go away. The winner of the Big Ten East has won every single Big Ten championship game. That shows how bad that West Division is.
And to my point is that, like I said, I just don't believe Iowa's that. It's still a quality win. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like Alabama going in and beating Georgia in the conference championship. So Michigan, from what I've seen, has 2 top 25 wins and a loss to number 11 Michigan State, which we know they kind of crapped the bed towards the end there. They kind of lost that game themselves. They were in control of that whole game until the second half, probably more or less even the fourth quarter. And like I said, strength of schedule for Michigan is 21st, so just 1 behind Georgia. So in general, that's why I have all my rankings where they are at. I would like to hear what you think about where I have my teams and why you want to I heard you give a sigh when I said I think Iowa's a subpar team.
Listen, man, I just really think you're letting your hatred of Michigan cloud your judgment here, dude. I just don't know how you cannot put them in the top 2. They have 2 big wins. They have 2 better wins than Georgia has all year. As the rankings currently sit, Georgia's best win is against Clemson. Michigan has their win against Ohio State, who's 6 at the moment, and a 42-3 drubbing of Iowa, who's number 15, in the conference title game.
Subpar Iowa.
Oh, come on, man! They're 10-3.
Yeah, I don't care.
The Big Ten.
Also, Iowa is 17 now in the new AP poll, by the way.
Yeah, I'm working off the most recent playoff rankings. Still, I mean that is at worst a top 20 team, and they took them to town.
I know this is a lot of what ifs, but I think I understand they're ranked higher, whatever, la-di-da. I think that Arkansas and Florida are a more solid team than Iowa. If you ask me personally,
Florida 6-6. Get out.
I believe they are more quality teams right there. That Arkansas had a good season. I'm from the Big Ten with Ohio State, but I'm with everyone else. The SEC is such a dominant conference that I feel like a lot of those teams have higher quality teams than some of the Big Ten teams. And I would like to think that Georgia's wins against some of those teams are better. So a question here then. Do you think Michigan's win against Iowa, not just, let's exclude that it was in the Big Ten championship, which I know it's hard to say, but would that win be more high quality than Georgia being Clemson? Because Clemson, I would like to say that Georgia being Clemson was a higher quality, even though Clemson's ranked higher than Iowa.
I mean, 10-3 is really different than 42-3.
But I mean, I understand that, but I'm not gonna. Like I said, I would just like to argue that I think that Clemson is a higher quality team. That's probably why it was a 10-3 game. I mean, it was the first game of the season, which at the time, it was a top 5 matchup.
And I think Clemson
the college football.
Let's pull that up. At the time of the game, Georgia was number 5, and Clemson must have been 2 or 3, right? They would have started the season, and Clemson was 3. Yeah, I mean that win looked great, especially right away in the season, which is kind of how they vaulted themselves into the top of the rankings right away. But then as Clemson struggled, I mean they definitely recovered, but I don't know. I personally think putting Michigan at number 4 is heinous, but I'm gonna chalk that up to bias.
Well, and to be honest with you, I think why I understand they're the undefeated team, but I don't understand how. I'm glad the committee put a non-Power 5 team in there. I love to see it, but I don't think they're 4 like they ranked them, but I would not put them at 1.
Oh yeah, they're number 1. They're number 1. They're undefeated. They've won 2 big games. They've won those 2 big games decisively. They've struggled. They haven't struggled any less than Michigan or Alabama have against some poorer teams. From what I've seen, I got to put them. I'm not saying. Here's the thing: I'm not saying that putting them number 1 makes them the best team. I just would rank them number 1. I mean, I'm kind of with Joel Klatt that that the rankings are a combination of what you deserve and have earned and how good you actually are. And I kind of feel like Cincinnati has earned and deserves that number 1 spot based on the season that they've had.
Well, and see, in that point, I understand, and that's why you try to look at criteria and say this is why. From me looking at my eye, just being like, these are who are the best teams. I don't think I would have Cincinnati at 1 or 2 or 3. I'd maybe have them at 4. But the fact that they're undefeated, they have those 2 big wins. Like you can't not put them in the playoff. And I don't know. Like I said, just me looking at the criteria, I do think they should be 1 or 2. I don't think they should be 1, but they should be ranked higher in my opinion. But like that looking at the criteria. But if you're just asking me, Jared, who do you think the best 4 teams? Just like me, just looking at a team or something, I wouldn't have Cincinnati in the top 3. I would probably put, like I said, I probably would be Alabama, Georgia, and Michigan. And after that, to be honest with you, I don't know if I would even put Cincinnati at like 5 or 6.
I mean, honestly, Cincinnati might not be one of the 10 best teams in the country. I mean, they might be the best team in the country. That's what the playoffs are for.
Yeah,
we're gonna figure that out, when they play.
We'll see what Cincinnati's all about. And like I said, don't forget that last year in the bowl games, I'm pretty sure it was that Cincinnati played Georgia in the bowl game, and they only lost to them by 7. And a lot of players coming back from both those teams. I would just like to say the fact that Georgia. This year they came in with JT Daniels, their quarterback, and he got injured in the first couple weeks, and they have just, even without their main man out there. They just still been balling out. I mean, minus this SEC championship game that happened. I think just everyone's just been looking down on Alabama this year. But yeah, they've had a lot of close games and said like everyone's been crapping on the Auburn game, but like it's a rivalry game. What do you expect? That's gonna happen. You see that all time rivalry game. You see all those years where Duke is ranked number 1 in the country in basketball, and North Carolina's a 500 team, and they go in there and beat Duke. I mean, no, basketball's different, but like that's expected from a rivalry game.
I know. If it happened once, I'd give it to him, but it's happened 3 times. And they had that 2-point win over Florida, who's 6-6, and that 6-point win at home against LSU, who's also 6-6. It's happened 3 times.
What do you say about all those three games that Cincinnati struggled against some awful teams that weren't even in the SEC?
Yeah, but Cincinnati hasn't lost a game yet.
Well,
I don't want to hold winning games against teams, but like I said, I mean, when it comes to it, I mean, I think every team has shown that they can lose to anyone.
Oh yeah, for sure, I agree.
Cincinnati has almost lost to 2 teams who have won a combined 5 games on the year. Like, that's not good. I mean, you know, Georgia didn't struggle against anyone until Alabama. So I mean, just showing what happened against Alabama shows that they can lose to a better team and decisively. I mean, Bama, as I said, they lost to and calling Texas A&M number 25. We all know the committee only put them at number 25 to justify putting Alabama at number 1. Is Texas A&M any better than Penn State or Wisconsin? We're also 8-4 who got left out. Because if they put Wisconsin in the top 25, then you have to say, well, geez, Michigan had a 30-point win over a top 25 team on the road, and then they can't put them at 2.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get to what the point you're saying. It's just agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's fair. In my opinion, I think it's clear that Cincinnati, Michigan, Alabama deserve 1 through 3. I wouldn't argue with anyone who put them in any order. I just think those 3 deserve the top 3 seeds. I mean, frankly, in a 14 playoff, seeding doesn't really matter because if you win, you're gonna have to play 2 of the 3 other teams.
Okay, and maybe clearly because you had them at 5, maybe that's why you just a simple. I just want a simple answer. You don't have to explain anything. If Cincinnati had 1 loss and say it didn't come in their conference championship, say they had 1 loss,
they're out.
They're
out.
They're out. And you putting Baylor in there?
I put Baylor in. Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't know. I just simple question. I'll do the
let's
same
say Cincinnati lost that game against Notre Dame and they lost by 5 points. Cincinnati might not even be top 10 just because, I mean, here's the thing is when your schedule is that bad, you don't get the luxury of losing a game like Alabama or Michigan or Georgia can.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean.
But they've won all those games. They've won some big ones. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I was just curious. I figured I'd better ask you a quick question about that.
Well, okay. How about we transition here into how do you think the playoffs are going to go, Jared? Give me your predictions. 2 semifinal games, college football championship.
All right, I'll give you straightforward what I am, and I feel like we're probably gonna disagree here. I don't know. I don't think either of these semifinal games are gonna come within 2 touchdowns.
Ooh, bold.
I don't think either one of them. If I could bet on it, and I'm a betting man, I think you know that. I would put my money down that both those 2 games are going to be at minimum a 2 touchdown game, and I think both the SEC teams win. I think Alabama destroys Cincinnati. I'm not going to lie. I'm putting down the 2 touchdown minimum. I don't think Georgia or Alabama is going to lose. I think they're both going to win, and I think at a minimum it's going to be both by 2 touchdowns. And I think we're going to have a rematch of the SEC championship in the national championship game. And I've been leaning back and forth of who I think would win. I think, to me personally, I think Alabama. I think Alabama's going to go in there and win it all. And I to be honest, with Alabama-Cincinnati game, I I haven't really watched Cincinnati play much this year. I've seen Alabama. I just know how much Cincinnati has struggled against some teams. I know Alabama has too, but to go in and just see how they dominated Michigan. I'm not Michigan. How they dominated Georgia. It's like I don't think that's going to be a game. I don't. Bryce Young is absolutely talented. You give Nick Saban however many weeks he has here, a month to prepare for this game, forget about it. You give Nick Saban, he's been in this situation how many times? So he has players that have been in this situation how many times? The seniors that are out on the field. Like, they all know how to come in to prepare for this game. They've done this before thousands of times. Nick Saban's done it every single year in the playoff, -1.
Yep, they've only missed once.
So, like, they're going to come into this. I just feel like Alabama's going to go in there. They're going to dominate Cincinnati. Everyone's going to be like, look into that game and be like, yeah, Cincinnati didn't deserve to be in the playoff. They'd be like, which I don't want to see, because if you ask me, I want Cincinnati to win it all, because I want the committee to be screwed, to be like, oh, well, because if Cincinnati loses and they get killed, the committee can be like, this is why we don't ever let any non-Power 5 teams, or we don't give any non-Power 5 teams respect, because they will just go in here and get destroyed. Granted, we've seen that Power 5 teams go in there and get destroyed, but I think the committee wants Alabama to absolutely dominate Cincinnati. But I'm going to over that game. The next game, Georgia and Michigan. I understand Georgia, yeah, they look vulnerable now. An unbeatable Georgia team just got beat against Alabama. But the thing about Alabama and Michigan, they play completely different styles of football. Alabama, you have a flashy quarterback. They threw like almost 50 passes in that SEC championship game against Florida. You have a Heisman winner, who's probably Heisman winner of Bryce Young, who is just unbelievably talented. He can throw it long. They have a well-established run game. But, like, the difference between Michigan and Alabama is that Michigan, yeah, they're more ground and pound. I understand they have McNamara, who's clearly, he has performed well in games. He makes nice pass. Like, he's a good passer. He knows what he's doing, but he's not. They don't have the explosive talent that Alabama does to just, I think, to blow open a game. I don't know, you'll say, well, look at them against Ohio State and this and that, but Ohio State defense hasn't been there all year. I mean, it's SEC football. I mean, the defenses always are different, it seems like. I just think that you might say, like, the differences there. I just think that Alabama has way different talent on offense and how they play an offensive game compared to Michigan. That's why Alabama was able to blow open a game against Georgia. And just because of that, I don't think Michigan has that. So I don't think they're going to be able to compete with Georgia. And I think that Georgia's going to win both games. I think we're going to see another SEC championship game for the national championship. Alabama, Georgia, and I think Alabama wins that game. I think that one's a close one. I think it's like one possession game, but I think Alabama wins that one. That is my opinion. I'd like to hear what you think. I feel like we might have maybe one game difference in the semifinal, maybe not. I just let you get your arguments or your thoughts on it.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm going to start with my game. The boys in the maize and blue are going to beat Georgia, and it's going to be by less than one touchdown.
Oh my God! Get over yourself.
Regardless of who wins, I think it's going to be Michigan. Michigan and Georgia are both going to score under 20 points, and neither one of them is going to win by more than 7. It is going to be a good old-fashioned Big Ten SEC rock fight. Both of them have stellar defenses, great lines, a great front seven. Michigan's D-backs have struggled at times, but I'm going to give them a pass because Ohio State has a potential Heisman winner and 3 first-round wide receivers. So I'm not going to knock them on that. But that's 2 fantastic defenses and 2 offenses who have trouble throwing the football and want to run it up the gut, which neither of the defenses are going to allow to happen. It's like I said, I got Michigan winning like 17-14, 13-10. It's gonna be a good old fashioned 1920s football, just rock fight, and it's gonna be a great game. And I think that's all I have to say about that. I'm also gonna take Cincinnati over Alabama. because they're my number one. I gotta take them to win that first game, and here's why. It's a little bit of gut. I just kind of feel like Alabama's finally going to lose a game here, here in the semifinals. I mean, and I don't think Cincinnati's defense gets enough credit. I mean, I'm looking at their games right now, and their defense is stellar. The most points they've given up in a game this year is 28. They're usually in the 7 to 17 area. They score. I just think, and they have something to prove. I think they're also going to win. I think they might win by a touchdown or more, maybe last second field goal. But I'm going to take Alabama to go down to Cincinnati. And a title game, I'm going to take the Maize and Blue in the title game, because what kind of fan would I be if I didn't take if I didn't think my boy Jim Harbaugh wasn't going to take Aiden Hutchinson, Cade McNamara, Hassan Haskins, and the whole crew all the way. They're going to win that title game over Cincinnati. I'm going to be there in Indianapolis, screaming my heart out, singing Mr. Brightside. It's going to be great. It's going to be grand. And I won't forget that day for the rest of my life. Mark it now.
You just crapped on me because I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm being biased about my college football rankings. And you go out here and tell me that just because I'm a Michigan fan, we're going to win it all. Like, you can't look at that. We haven't had this podcast the prior years, but you could have asked me my honest opinion in prior years when Ohio State was in the college football playoffs. I don't even think the year they won it, there's been a year that I was actually confident that Ohio State. Yeah, I'm an Ohio State fan, but being realistic, last year going against Alabama, the Alabama team, I didn't think that we had a chance. All those other years we made the playoffs against other, like Clemson, we've had good teams. It's just I just can't believe you're saying that Michigan's right now. You're telling me with all these teams out there that you're saying Michigan is going to go out there.
Absolutely. This is Jim Harbaugh's best team. I don't think it's coincidence that this is the year where I severely lowered my expectations. I said if this team won 8 games, this is a successful season. They went and won 12. They were, like I said, they are a crappy fourth quarter and a Bosch replay review away from beating Michigan State and going 13-0. They're good. They play great defense. They have 2 or 3 really talented running backs, 2 really talented quarterbacks. I mean, you got McNamara, but you got to remember that they got Jim Harbaugh's best quarterback recruit since he's arrived, and J.J. McCarthy, who arguably blew the game against Michigan State, but still, they're talented on offense. They have the best offensive line Jim Harbaugh's ever had. They're going to be able to run the ball, not as successfully, but they're going to be able to run the ball on any team they play against.
Against a Georgia team who have the best front 7 in college football.
Yes, they'll be able to run it. I'm not saying they're going for 200 yards, but they're going to be successful on the ground. And what I think that Michigan-Georgia game comes down to which quarterback plays better, because it's going to come, because I don't think either team is going to be able to run the ball all over each other. I think either team can be successful on the ground, but I think this game is going to come down to whichever quarterback plays a better game, and it's going to be tight, low scoring, good old-fashioned football.
Well, and from what you said, clearly you have a different perspective on me. If you said the better quarterback, I don't think it's going to be Michigan. I think it's going to be, I can't even think of his name. I think his name is Barrett, whatever. I can't remember what his first name for Georgia. I think it'll be him. I have so much I understand what Alabama just did to Georgia, but like I said in my statement, Alabama plays a lot different game than Michigan does. And I think they have a lot more star power and stuff like that, where they're able to expose Georgia's defense as they did. Like I said, you got the probable Heisman winner on their team, some talented wide receivers, and they had their running back who was coming off of injuries and stuff, who wasn't even fully healthy. That came in. Granted, like I said, Alabama threw the ball 50 times. I don't think Michigan's going to go in that game and throw the ball 50 times. I think they're going to try to stick with the normal, throw pass here and there. But their main thing is they're going to try to win the game on the offensive line, and I don't think they're going to win that game. And if I could bet, actually I wouldn't even say that. If I was more confident in one of the games, I would say it would be Alabama over Cincinnati. But I do still think that Georgia will win by, at minimum, 2 touchdowns. I still think it's going to be like a 3-touchdown game.
No way. It's going to be a tight one. Either way, it's going to be tight. I'd also like to point out, I'd love to see where Michigan's season would be if their best wide receiver didn't blow his knee out the first game of the season. They have 1 or 2 really talented guys on the outside who are young, but who's McNamara going to throw it to? I mean, they don't. Like I said, they're missing their best wide receiver, and they've had plenty of success. He takes care of the ball. It's not going to be a turnover fest.
I hate that. I don't even know why you say that. You could be saying, I understand. Yeah, Georgia ended up rolling in one out in the SEC. But you could be saying, oh, if JT Daniels was healthy the whole year for Georgia, who's a very talented quarterback, and if he was completely healthy and playing the SEC championship game, that game could have been different, and they could be 13-0 right now and be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. You can do that for about any team.
I'm just saying it shows. They've been successful, missing their best offensive threat, and they've got it done. So I'm not what I'm trying to get at here is that Michigan doesn't need all these big threats because they're so good up front, and they're just going to get the job done. They haven't struggled to score the ball all year.
Well, like I said, think differently. Apparently, we both think differently because he thinks Cincinnati's going to go on. The thing about Cincinnati is that their secondary is one of the best in the nation. I was watching a game with my father-in-law, actually, or not my father, my girlfriend's dad, over Thanksgiving. I was watching the Cincinnati game. One of their D-backs, and I'm pretty sure it's Amid Gardner for Cincinnati. He hasn't, as this D-back, hasn't allowed a touchdown, like from man-to-man coverage. He has not allowed a touchdown his whole career in Cincinnati.
Impressive. I
might have heard that wrong, but I'm pretty sure, and my girlfriend's dad, I'm pretty sure, heard the same thing too, that apparently these announcers that he has not allowed a touchdown in his whole career. And since I don't know if he was a transfer and he came last year, or if he's been there his whole year, he might not have played his freshman or sophomore year or something, but like, even playing in a bad conference and you're a really good team, and like, I should say bad conference because Houston's in there. You have SMU, good teams. But and maybe that's not true anymore because I didn't watch the AAC championship game. But as of that day during Thanksgiving, that they came out and said this guy has not allowed a passing touchdown his whole career in Cincinnati, which is ridiculous. And like I said, Cincinnati's got one of the best D-backs in the nation. Like having Bryce Young out there, who's apparently been balling out, I think it is a good matchup. But I still think Alabama comes up with the dub.
Admittedly, I think I'm picking Cincinnati more because I want them to win. But I mean, they can win that game. I think any of these teams in these last 4 can beat any of the other teams on any given day, depending on who plays better and who plays worse. So we'll just have to see who's right in a few weeks.
No, yeah, and like I said, we will see. I agree with you. I do want Cincinnati to win. I usually do root for Alabama, but I do want Cincinnati to win because I kind of want the committee to be embarrassed because the committee, they want them to Cincinnati get absolutely killed by Alabama. That's what they want. So in future years, when something like this happens again, they can be just like, oh, we don't want to put them in there because they're not a Power 5 team. And this will be the last thing I say about anything about college football on this podcast is that let's just all admit that I don't think maybe you don't agree. I don't think Cincinnati should have been the first non-Power 5 team to make it. UCF should have made it the 1 year.
Oh, they got jobbed.
Since this should not be the first non-Power 5 team to come in, I just think the committee's been having a lot of pressure to that they haven't put respect on these teams, and this year it just worked out perfectly for them that literally the committee, the top 4 teams were just laid out for them. This is like the first year ever in the college football playoffs that people weren't arguing that 5 or 6 should have been into the playoffs. This is the first year everyone's like, yeah, these are the only 4 teams that should be in it.
Yeah, I can't think of any of the other 8 or 9 years of playoffs have been going on where there hasn't been some arguments. This year, it was very clear cut. So you could have. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, is if if Alabama loses, I mean, you could argue that Baylor Notre Dame should have been in. I mean, if Michigan loses, you could have argued Baylor Notre Dame should have gotten in. But I mean, all the teams that needed to win on Saturday won, and it made it really easy on the committee as who to pick.
Oh yeah, like I said, I just think this was easy for it, and I don't think anyone's going to argue. You can argue any of those four teams that one of them, maybe not Georgia, because like I said, the committee has recent win-loss. Like Georgia just lost, and they weren't an SEC champion. I think besides Georgia, you could have put Michigan, Alabama, and Cincinnati any spot. No one would have argued with it. I mean, people will always argue about it, but like no one's going to be like, well, like if the committee put Michigan at 1, I'd be pissed. I'm an Ohio State fan, but I would have been like, well, I mean, I think any one of 3 teams could be number 1 right now. It's just I think Alabama's the best one.
Speaking of best, let's transition to the NFL. Who's the best team in the NFL?
The NFL, I tell you what, it has been nuts all year round because anytime during the season you think that the Rams, the Cardinals, the Packers, the Bills, the Titans, you think every week it seems like you hear all these people talk about this is the best team now. This is the best team now. And every single time that someone says they're the best team, they lose. And then all of a sudden everyone it's back. Like I said, it's just like college football playoffs. It's like the committee. It's all what happens recently. They lose that one game and all of a sudden they're like the 5th best team in the NFL now. Just because they lost a recent game, they're like the 5th best team. And this year, to be honest, I don't think there's a definite clear best team out there. But if I had to put my money on any team this year to go win the Super Bowl, it'd be the Green Bay Packers. 100%. I have been on minus that first game this year when they looked terrible against the Saints and they just got dominated. Besides that, I just think Green Bay has been dominant. I understand they have a lot of drama with Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that, but they've been the most consistent team in the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, I don't know the numbers off by the top of my head, but how many last year they lost to the Bucs in a conference championship, who they didn't put their faith in Aaron Rodgers and wanted to kick a field goal, which I believe is just I think the Packers have been right there for the past 4 or 5 years, and they just have not make it. And I think this year, if I was betting on a team, it would be the Green Bay Packers because they have Aaron Rodgers, who is just, I think, just a generational talent who I love. I understand he's a lot of drama off the field, but like when he's on the field, I don't think I'd want another quarterback in the whole NFL other than Aaron Rodgers. And that might be a different discussion or later down the road. But if I had to pick one person, it'd be Aaron Rodgers. With Devontae Adams out there, Aaron Jones, who hasn't been having the greatest season as he has in the past, but like you have some solid players out there with Aaron Rodgers, and the NFC, AFC, like I said, all these teams have just been crazy. I think the most consistent team that's been good in the past couple of years has been the Packers, and with Aaron Rodgers, who knows what's going to happen to him this year or next year, where he might leave, or who knows what's going to happen. I think the Packers have something to prove, and I, in my opinion, I believe they are the best team, hands down.
You know, I got to say, I agree with you on that one. They have been the most consistent team this year. I mean, they've lost 3 games. They lost to the Saints first game. I'm going to give any team a pass on the first game of the season, especially with the starters not playing any preseason anymore. Anything can happen. They just played really bad. Every team gets it. Every team plays bad every now and then. And one of their other losses against Kansas City, that was without Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they've played well. They've played really well. Missing Rodgers, missing a bunch of starters, missing Devontae Adams. They beat the Cardinals, missing some starters. I mean, this team has been great all year. I don't know if I put money on them to win the Super Bowl because, like I said, I think anyone can get hot. I mean, we saw what happened with Tampa Bay last year. They got hot. I mean, but right now I think it comes down to the Cardinals or the Packers. But just you look at the head-to-heads, you look at consistency over the season. I'd have to agree that it's actually the Packers.
Oh yeah, I agree with you too. That like I'm not, and I know I said it earlier. I said if I had put money, and I think right now, if I had put money down on anybody right now, it would be the Packers. But like I said earlier, no one's been the best team all year. Like I do agree. I'm not saying the Packers are going to go win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying that if I had bet on one team, it'd be the Packers. I think anyone can right now. I mean, it seems like, but I think, like you said about the Buccaneers, I think it just determines in the last weeks of the season who's the hottest team, and whoever the hottest team is, I think goes in and is gonna go and at least compete into the Super Bowl, because that's what you see year in and year out. I swear in NFL, maybe not every year, but you have a team that comes in playoffs who's just a hot team, is playing good. They're all clicking together, and they go in and they go to at least compete for a Super Bowl.
2018 Eagles, Exhibit A.
2018 Eagles. I mean, you have the Giants those couple years. The years the Giants won, they were never the best team going ever in the playoffs.
The Giants came out of the wild card both times they beat Brady in the Super Bowl.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, especially this year when you don't think no one knows who the favorite is, because like I said, every single week when you think someone is the best team, they go off and lose. And you could have made arguments for the Titans, but without Derrick Henry, and yeah, they did win a couple games without him, but like, and from what I've seen, he is going to come back.
He's supposed to be back early January, which is why I would personally put my money down on the Titans, because when he played, the Titans looked like the best team, and they'll get him back. So they just need to play well enough while he's gone, win one or two more games, make the playoffs, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think the Titans can compete, no doubt. But let me tell you right now, because I'm on. These are the favorites for winning the Super Bowl according to Vegas, right here. Okay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the favorites at plus 500. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Packers,
the Chiefs,
the Bills. Yep.
Not their year. I don't care what anyone says.
It goes the Buccaneers is 1, Chiefs 2, Packers 3, Buffalo 4, Cardinals 5. And I wasn't going to go to 6 till I saw this team. And the New England Patriots at 6.
I think right now the Patriots are the best team in the AFC.
Well, they're
the hottest team for sure at the moment.
They haven't lost in 6 games? They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. Like, they are definitely a hot team that's out there playing. And tonight's game against they have the Bills twice yet this season. I think if they go and win one of those games, I think they will split them. The Patriots and the Bills. I think they'll split them. I think the Patriots will win one, the Bills win the other. But if the Patriots went and won both of them, forget about it. I think how don't you, the way that Bill Belichick has everyone after last year, it was all Brady. He's the one that was leading the Patriots to such a great season and all this and that. And it's like, well, you got to realize too, Patriots had the most people that opted out of a season last year because of COVID.
And Stephon Gilmore stunk. I mean, Cam Newton was a failed experiment.
Oh, it was. And you have a good rookie quarterback who I think Belichick found his man there. I think the Patriots are, and as a Patriots fan, I'm not trying to be, might be a little biased, but stuff like that. I'm not with you though. I don't think they're the best AFC team. Right now, they're the hottest AFC team. I don't believe that they are the best. And I couldn't tell you who I think. I don't, like I said, that's the NFL right now, is that there's just the fact that no one knows who's the best, because every single week it seems like there's a different team that's better than the rest of them.
But, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that there is one team that is worse than the rest of them. And that's the Lions, right?
Oh, well, how about them coming on with their first win of the season against the Vikings?
All those Vegas bettors have been putting their money down on the Lions money line finally cashed out.
They finally got their W right there. And being from North Dakota, where we are, I feel bad for all them Vikings fans. But the sad part is about these Vikings fans, I feel like they're not even surprised about it though. They're just like, this is just a normal Viking season. Like, of course we have to lose to the worst team in the NFL. Like, I just found it funny. Honestly, I didn't even know they're playing the Vikings this last week. And if I was back home and I could bet, I feel like just knowing that they're playing the Vikings, I would have bet on that game. I would put my money on the Lions.
Yeah, I wish I'd have been at home so I could hit up the casino so I could have put some money down on them.
I most definitely was, but I don't. Was that it was a home game for the Lions, which I'm not saying means anything, but
Playing
it
at
has a
home
good-
means a little less in the NFL as it does in college football when nothing can compete with, whiteout at Penn State or LSU. I mean, it is tough to play away in college football when there's 100,000 people screaming at you.
Oh man, I just aren't you right about that? Especially some of those kids on the sideline, like being in student sections at UND. Granted, it's not as big UND hockey game, UND football games. Just hearing the things that people yell at them during those games, I couldn't imagine during some of those games and just stuff. They're heckling the players on the field. Like, that's one of my dreams. Was go to a whiteout Penn State game because it is just, it gives me chills just even watching it on TV. Watching it, like it is just crazy.
All right. I mean, I think we want to wrap it up in just a little bit here. I don't want to bore the audience, but I think we want to talk about just a couple more notable week 13 performances, and I'll let you go with yours here.
I think the one main takeaway I want to take is just the jockstrap king, Gardner Minshew, leading the Eagles to a win this week. Granted, against a Jets team, yeah, sure. But for him to go in, I've loved this guy ever since he came in from college. He's just a character. I'm not gonna lie, up until this, I didn't even know. Granted, like a couple weeks ago, I didn't know that he even played for the Eagles anymore. I looked it up like 2-3 weeks ago, wondering where this guy was, and found he played with the Eagles. And I found out this week, about halfway through the game, when I was looking on Twitter, that Gardner Minshew was starting for the Eagles. And my God, the jockstrap king comes out and balls out and throws 2 touchdowns and leads the Eagles 33-18 over the Jets. And I don't know how to. I just love that guy so much. I know they're playing the Jets, which is a very subpar team, but I'm kind of thinking maybe Minshew's the way. Let's forget about Jalen Hurts. Let's throw Minshew in there the rest of the year.
Throw him to the trash.
Yeah, we don't need no
start
SEC
over
quarterback. Let's build around Minshew, and we'll that's a dynasty right there.
I mean, it definitely worked for the Jaguars.
That it did.
All right, so I think I'll finish things off here with my week 13 performance is the Raiders magical coin. For the first time in the season, the Raiders magical coin failed to predict the outcome of the Raiders game. So for those of you who aren't on Reddit, some person in the Raiders subreddit flipped a coin at the beginning of the season to predict the results of every game. And up until this week, he had gotten every single result right. All hail the coin. But this week, the coin goes down. The coin has lost. All hail the coin no more, I suppose. I mean, you can only rely on a piece of metal for so long. But down goes the coin. Down goes the coin. Biggest upset of the year, in my opinion.
No doubt. I'm still putting my money on the coin. I didn't even know about this until you told me today before this podcast about it. I think that you need to let me know what this coin says. So next week, or I'll be home this weekend. So whatever that coin says about the Raiders game, I might have to go put a bet down at the old mean casino.
Yeah, I've been using the coin to do all our Allard family pick'ems, and they haven't failed me until this week.
Apparently, when in doubt, trust the coin.
Trust the coin. All hail the coin.
All hail the coin. Well, thank you guys for listening. I know it might have got a little longer than we expected to today, but like I said, tune in the future weeks. We might come back towards the end of this week, but for sure we'll be back next week at some point. Like I said, I just expect us to do it once or twice a week, just talking about current things, maybe talking before the NFL week starts or whatnot. But like I said, thank you guys for tuning in, and I guess we'll see you next time on the Lowing Bros Sports Podcast.
Works for me.
Thanks,
everyone.
See you next time.